As we grow older, life offers us something truly priceless: clarity. We begin to see what truly matters: peace of mind, our energy, and our well-being. But here's the harsh truth: not everyone deserves your time and kindness. You've spent a lifetime giving, nurturing, and helping others, and for the most part, it's brought you joy. But if you're honest, you'll probably admit that not everyone you helped was grateful. Some people left you drained, others took advantage of your generosity, and some simply disappeared once they got what they wanted. In this stage of life, your energy is precious. Your time is a treasure. Yet some people will drain you dry if you let them. They will disguise their intentions with sweet words, act like they care, or even play the victim just to pull you into their problems. So here's the question: how do you protect your peace without feeling guilty? How do you draw the line between helping and being used? Today we'll reveal 6 types of people you should stop helping immediately. These are the people who don't want solutions. They want control, attention, or constant sympathy. By the time you realize it, they've taken more than just your time. They've taken your peace of mind. And one of these types might be someone shockingly close to you. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what if it's my family? What if it's someone I've trusted for years? It's a tough reality to face, but it's also one of the most liberating truths you'll ever learn. As we walk through this together, I'll help you recognize the signs, set boundaries, and reclaim your well-being without sacrificing your compassion. Because protecting your peace doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. And here's the twist: the last type of person we'll discuss may surprise you the most. They're often the hardest to spot, and yet they can do the most damage. So stay with me. Reflect as we go. Have you ever felt taken for granted? Drained after helping someone who never seems to give back? If you have, then this video will open your eyes and maybe even change your life. Let's begin. Let's start with the first type of person you should stop helping: the manipulator. At first glance, manipulators don't seem dangerous. In fact, they often present themselves as kind, charming, or even vulnerable. But don't be fooled. Behind that warm smile lies a calculated intent. These people are experts at making you feel guilty or obligated, and before you know it, you're caught in their web of demands. Here's how they work. They don't ask for help outright. Instead, they use subtle cues, sad stories, emotional appeals, and reminders of past favors. They'll say things like, "You're the only one I can count on," or "Remember when I helped you that one time?" It feels personal and urgent, like saying no would make you a bad person. But what happens after you help them? Their gratitude fades quickly. At first they're appreciative, but soon their requests become more frequent, more demanding. They push your boundaries little by little until you feel trapped. Take this story for example. Susan was a retired nurse with a heart full of compassion. When her neighbor, Carol, needed help after a surgery, Susan was happy to step in. She cooked meals, ran errands, and even stayed overnight when Carol needed company. But once Carol recovered, she didn't stop calling. Suddenly, every minor inconvenience was an emergency. Susan felt drained, but every time she tried to pull back, Carol would say things like, "I don't know what I'd do without you," or "You promised you'd be there for me." Susan found herself stuck in a cycle of endless favors, too kind to say no, but too exhausted to keep going. Sound familiar? If you've ever been in a situation like this, you know how hard it is to break free. Manipulators thrive on your kindness, using it as a tool to control you. But here's the truth you need to remember: saying no doesn't make you cruel, it makes you strong. Ask yourself this: do you feel energized after helping this person, or do you feel drained? Do they respect your boundaries, or do they push until you give in? If it's the latter, it's time to set some limits. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's survival. Remember, true generosity should feel fulfilling, not suffocating. You've earned the right to say no without guilt. Don't let manipulators rob you of the joy that comes from helping others who genuinely appreciate you. Now that we've uncovered the manipulator's tactics, let's move on to the next type of person you must be careful with: the perpetual victim. The second type of person you need to watch out for is the perpetual victim. Unlike manipulators, these people don't hide their struggles. In fact, they wear them proudly, like a badge. At first, your heart might go out to them. They always seem to be facing some kind of crisis, a financial problem, a health scare, or trouble with family. They tell their story with such emotion that you can't help but feel sorry for them. And so, you offer your help. But here's where things get tricky. The perpetual victim doesn't want solutions. They want sympathy. No matter how much advice or support you give, it's never enough. They aren't interested in fixing their problems. They just want someone to confirm their belief that the world is unfair and that they're powerless to change it. Let me share a story. John, a retired accountant, met an old high school friend, Tom, at a reunion. Tom told John he had fallen on hard times and needed help getting back on his feet. Feeling nostalgic and compassionate, John lent him money, just enough to help him catch up on his bills. But that was only the beginning. A month later, Tom called again. This time, it was another crisis. A broken car, overdue rent, a family emergency. The requests kept coming. No matter how much John gave, Tom's problems never seemed to end. Eventually, John realized something. Tom wasn't trying to fix his situation. He was just using John's generosity to avoid taking responsibility. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. The perpetual victim is everywhere. They thrive on your empathy, creating a constant loop of crisis that keeps you emotionally hooked. Every time you think things are getting better, a new problem arises, always urgent, always requiring your help. It's exhausting. And worse, it pulls you away from the people and activities that bring true joy and fulfillment. Helping someone who refuses to help themselves isn't kindness, it's enabling. The hardest part? Walking away. But here's something important to remember. You are not responsible for fixing someone else's life. Your role isn't to carry their burdens, it's to inspire them to carry their own. Ask yourself, does this person take ownership of their challenges, or do they always find someone else to blame? If they refuse to take control, it's time to let go. You deserve relationships that uplift you, not drain you. Now that you understand the perpetual victim's patterns, let's move on to a personality that's just as draining, but in a completely different way, the chronic complainer. Now let's talk about the chronic complainer. This type of person can be one of the most exhausting to deal with, not because they're in crisis, but because they see life through a constant lens of negativity. No matter what happens, it's never enough, never right, and never good. At first, you might think they just need to vent. After all, everyone has moments of frustration. But for the chronic complainer, complaining isn't an occasional thing. It's a way of life. They'll complain about their family, their neighbors, the weather, their health, or the smallest inconvenience. Even when something positive happens, they'll find a way to turn it into a problem. If you offer solutions, they'll shoot them down. If you give advice, they'll tell you why it won't work. Nothing is ever good enough. Take this example. Margaret, a retired teacher, loved spending her mornings walking at the park. It was her way of staying active and connecting with nature. One day, she met Helen, a fellow walker who seemed friendly at first. They began meeting up regularly, chatting along the way. But after a few weeks, Margaret noticed a pattern. Helen always had something to complain about. Her children didn't call enough, her doctor wasn't competent, the neighbors were too noisy, and the weather was never right. What started as a pleasant walk quickly turned into a daily therapy session for Helen. Margaret tried to be supportive at first, offering advice and encouragement. But no matter what she said, Helen dismissed it. Instead of feeling energized after their walks, Margaret began dreading them. She felt emotionally drained, as if Helen's negativity was slowly seeping into her own life. Does this sound familiar? Chronic complainers aren't looking for solutions, they're looking for an audience. They want someone to validate their dissatisfaction. But here's the problem. If you spend too much time around a chronic complainer, their negativity can start to affect you. It clouds your thoughts, makes you anxious, and pulls you away from the peace and joy you've worked so hard to cultivate. Here's the truth, you can't fix someone else's mindset. No amount of support will change their outlook if they refuse to see the good in life. What you can do is protect yourself. Ask yourself this, after spending time with this person, do you feel lighter or do you feel burdened? Are you constantly trying to cheer them up, only to have your efforts brushed aside? If so, it's time to set boundaries. You don't have to be rude or harsh. Simply reduce the amount of time you spend with them. Offer empathy, but don't let their complaints consume your thoughts and energy. Your well-being matters and your peace is worth protecting. Remember, life is too short to focus on what's wrong. You've learned to find beauty in small moments, to embrace joy even in tough times. Surround yourself with people who share that perspective, people who uplift you, not weigh you down. And speaking of people who drain your energy, the next type might surprise you. They don't complain or seek sympathy. Instead, they demand your help without gratitude, because, in their mind, they believe they're entitled to it. Let's explore the entitled individual. Now, let's talk about a type of person who's perhaps the most frustrating of all, the entitled individual. These people don't ask for help, they expect it. In their mind, your time, energy, and generosity aren't gifts, they're something they're owed. You'll recognize them by how they approach you. Their requests don't feel like requests, they feel like demands. They rarely say thank you or acknowledge the effort you put in. Instead, they act like you're simply fulfilling an obligation. And no matter how much you do for them, it's never enough. At first, you might not notice their entitlement. It might feel like they genuinely need help, and your kind heart wants to support them. But over time, their true nature begins to show. They start expecting more and more from you. Let me share a story. Barbara, a retired businesswoman, loved helping her family. When her niece, Emily, lost her job, Barbara immediately offered financial support to help her get through a tough time. She gave Emily enough money to cover rent and bills for 3 months, expecting that it would give her a chance to get back on her feet. But instead of being grateful, Emily started to expect the help. She didn't look for a new job. When the 3 months were up, she asked for more money, claiming she just needed a little more time. Barbara agreed, wanting to be supportive. But this time, something felt different. Emily wasn't asking, she was demanding, as if Barbara owed her the money. When Barbara finally said no, Emily got angry, accusing her of being selfish and unsupportive. Sound familiar? Entitled individuals don't see your help as kindness. They see it as their right. And when you try to set boundaries, they'll often lash out, trying to guilt you into continuing the cycle. But here's what you must remember. You are not responsible for meeting someone's endless demands. Helping should come from the heart, not from obligation or guilt. Ask yourself, does this person express gratitude, or do they act like you're never doing enough? Do they respect your limits, or do they push until you give in? If someone repeatedly takes without giving back, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. It's okay to say no. In fact, it's necessary. Your energy is precious and your peace is priceless. It doesn't mean you stop helping altogether. It means you choose wisely. Reserve your kindness for those who truly appreciate it. Surround yourself with people who value you, not just for what you can give, but for who you are. And if you think the entitled individual is draining, wait until you meet the next type, the drama seeker. These individuals thrive on chaos, and their goal isn't help, it's attention. Let's break down their behavior and why they're so dangerous to your peace. Now let's talk about the drama seeker. While other types might manipulate, complain, or demand, this person craves chaos. For them, life without drama is boring. They thrive on stirring things up, creating conflict, and keeping everyone around them caught in a whirlwind of emotional turmoil. At first, you might not notice their tendency toward chaos. In fact, they can be quite charming and exciting to be around, always with a story to tell or an issue they need your help solving. But soon enough, you'll realize that there's always something wrong in their world. And worse, they expect you to get involved. Take Lisa, for example. She's the kind of person who always calls with the latest crisis, whether it's trouble with her family, a falling out with a friend, or some workplace drama. Her problems are always urgent, always complicated, and always demand your immediate attention. She'll say things like, "I don't know what to do without your advice," or "I just need someone to listen." At first, helping Lisa made her friend Carol feel important. She believed she was making a difference. But no matter how much advice she gave or how often she listened, the problems never went away. In fact, they only got worse. Here's the truth about drama seekers. They don't want solutions. They want attention. The moment one crisis is resolved, another one magically appears. It's a never-ending cycle. They keep you emotionally hooked by making you feel responsible for their chaos. The danger of spending too much time with a drama seeker is that their chaos will start to become your chaos. You'll find yourself constantly worrying about their problems, replaying their stories in your mind, and even losing sleep over situations that have nothing to do with you. It's exhausting, isn't it? But here's the secret they don't want you to know. You're not their savior, and you're not responsible for fixing their mess. Ask yourself this: are you being dragged into conflicts that aren't yours? Are you constantly putting out fires for someone else while neglecting your own peace of mind? If the answer is yes, it's time to step back. Offer brief words of encouragement, but don't let yourself be pulled into their whirlwind. You don't have to be rude, but you do have to be firm. Politely but clearly, let them know that you care, but you won't participate in the endless cycles of conflict. You've earned the right to embrace peace in your later years. Don't let a drama seeker rob you of that peace. And speaking of people who can drain your energy, the next type is perhaps the most cunning of all. They hide behind charm and grand promises, but they're only there for what they can gain. Let's move on to the opportunist. Now we've arrived at the opportunist, perhaps the most cunning and difficult to spot. Unlike the manipulator or drama seeker, this person doesn't demand or complain outright. Instead, they disguise their true intentions behind charm, big promises, and grand visions. They make you feel special, like you're part of something greater. But underneath it all, their only goal is to take what they can and disappear when they've gotten what they want. The opportunist is a master of appearances. They don't present themselves as someone in need. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, they make you believe that helping them is an opportunity for you. They'll say things like, "This will benefit both of us," or "You're the only person who can help me with this project." For a while, it seems exciting. You feel valued, even flattered that they chose you. But what happens when it's time for them to deliver on their promises? They vanish. Take the story of Frank, a retired business owner. He met Jake, a young entrepreneur, at a local networking event. Jake told Frank about a new business idea that sounded promising, something innovative that could be highly successful with the right backing. He asked for Frank's advice and soon after for a small loan to get things started. Frank saw potential in Jake's idea and wanted to help the next generation. He gave Jake not just advice but also a generous loan to kickstart the business. At first, Jake was grateful and enthusiastic, constantly updating Frank on the progress. But as time passed, the updates grew fewer and fewer. When Frank tried to follow up, Jake became distant. Eventually, Jake disappeared altogether, leaving Frank not just out of money but also feeling betrayed. Here's the thing about opportunists: they don't build real relationships. They create temporary alliances based on what you can provide. Once they've taken what they need, they move on to their next target without a second thought. So, how can you protect yourself from an opportunist? Start by asking these questions. Does this person only reach out when they need something? Are their promises followed by action, or are they just empty words? True relationships are built on mutual respect, not transactions. If you notice that someone only shows up when it benefits them, trust your instincts. It's okay to be cautious. You've spent a lifetime gaining wisdom and experience. Use it. Protect your resources, your energy, and your trust for those who truly deserve it. And remember, it's not selfish to say no to someone who's only there for personal gain. By setting boundaries, you leave room for the people who genuinely care about you. We're almost at the final type of person, and this one is perhaps the most dangerous of all. They don't just drain you, they actively cause harm, sometimes in ways you don't even realize until it's too late. Let's move on to the last type, the harmful individual. Now, we've reached the harmful individual, and this type is different from all the others. They don't just drain you emotionally or take advantage of your generosity. These people actively bring harm into your life. Their actions, whether subtle or blatant, are toxic. They don't care about your well-being, and often they'll hurt you without a second thought, even if they claim to love you. Sometimes, the harmful individual is easy to recognize. They're openly controlling, manipulative, or cruel. But more often, their behavior is much more subtle. Small insults disguised as jokes, decisions made at your expense, or manipulation that feels like concern. Here's the hardest part. The harmful individual is often someone close to you. It might be a family member, a lifelong friend. or someone you've trusted for years. That's what makes their betrayal sting so deeply. They use the trust you've built as a weapon. Take Paul's story, for example. Paul had always been close to his son-in-law, Dave. He trusted Dave with financial matters and even let him handle some of his retirement investments. But little by little, Paul noticed money disappearing from his account. When he questioned Dave, he got vague explanations and promises to fix things. Paul wanted to believe him. He didn't want to assume the worst. After all, this was family. But deep down, Paul knew something wasn't right. Finally, after consulting a financial advisor, Paul discovered the truth. Dave had been siphoning money for years. The betrayal cut deeper than any financial loss. It wasn't just about the money, it was the broken trust, the realization that someone he loved had intentionally caused him harm. Harmful individuals aren't always this obvious. Sometimes they create conflict within your family, turning people against each other. They might spread gossip, plant seeds of doubt, or manipulate others to serve their own agenda. Other times, they undermine your confidence, making you question your decisions and instincts. But here's something important to remember. You have the right to protect yourself, even from people you love. You are not obligated to keep harmful individuals in your life. It doesn't have to be a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's as simple as limiting contact, setting firm boundaries, and choosing peace over conflict. Ask yourself this: after interacting with this person, do you feel anxious, drained, or diminished? Do their actions create division in your life or make you doubt your self-worth? If the answer is yes, it's time to take a step back. Protecting your well-being isn't selfish, it's necessary. You've spent years building a life filled with love, wisdom, and hard-earned peace. No one has the right to take that away from you. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who bring joy and light into your life. You deserve relationships built on mutual respect and kindness, not manipulation or harm. And if you're wondering whether it's too late to make these changes, let me assure you, it's never too late to protect your peace. Every boundary you set is an act of self-care. Every harmful relationship you step away from makes room for something better. Life is too short to spend time with people who hurt you. We've covered a lot today: 6 types of people who can drain your energy, disrupt your peace, and even cause lasting harm. But there's one final, unexpected truth I want to leave you with. Sometimes the hardest person to set boundaries with is yourself. Yes, you heard that right. We can sometimes become our own worst enemy, overgiving, ignoring our limits, and neglecting our own needs. The key to protecting your peace starts with learning to say no, not just to others, but to the pressures we place on ourselves. So, how do you take what we've learned today and apply it in your own life? Let's wrap up with some practical steps and a few final thoughts. We've just taken a deep dive into 6 types of people who can drain your energy, disrupt your peace, and sometimes even cause you lasting harm. Manipulators, perpetual victims, chronic complainers, entitled individuals, drama seekers, and harmful individuals. Each of them brings something into your life that you don't need: stress, conflict, or exhaustion. But here's the most important truth. You have the power to decide who gets access to your time, your heart, and your energy. It's not always easy, but it's necessary. In this season of life, your peace is your greatest treasure, and protecting it isn't selfish, it's an act of self-respect. You've spent decades giving to others, your family, your community, your friends. You've poured love and care into every role you've taken on: parent, partner, worker, caregiver. Now it's time to pour that same love and care back into yourself. Reflect for a moment on the relationships in your life. Who brings you joy and lifts you up? Who leaves you feeling lighter, happier, and more at peace? And then, who leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or even resentful? Recognizing these patterns is the first step in reclaiming your time and energy. It's not about blaming anyone or holding grudges. It's about making choices that honor the life you've built and the peace you've earned. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to protect that peace. It's not about shutting people out. It's about creating space for what truly matters. Saying no doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you choose where your energy is best spent. Remember, the people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't? Well, that's your answer right there. And once you've made space by stepping away from toxic or draining relationships, something beautiful happens. you rediscover joy. You can reconnect with the things that truly light you up. Whether it's an old passion, a walk in nature, or quiet moments spent with people who bring peace into your life, every step toward joy is a step toward freedom. Life is too short to spend it surrounded by chaos and conflict. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever encountered one of these types of people? How did it affect you? What did you learn from that experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's support each other on this journey to protect our peace and live life on our own terms. If this video has given you a fresh perspective or helped you reflect, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need to hear this, and subscribe for more content like this. Together, we're building a community that values growth, wisdom, and resilience. Thank you for spending this time with me. Here's to living life with clarity, joy, and the peace you've earned. You deserve nothing less. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever encountered one of these types of people? How did it affect you? More importantly, what did you learn from that experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's support each other on this journey to protect our peace and live life on our own terms. And if this video has helped you reflect or given you a new perspective, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more content like this. Together, we can create a community that values growth, wisdom, and resilience. Thank you for spending this time with me. Here's to living life with clarity, joy, and the peace you've earned.